And I'm going to tell y'all right now, we're going to be talking about a lot of basketball today. So if you like basketball and you like the way we discuss it, you're probably in the right place. So I got a question for you, Nelson.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm hoping that you have an answer that I find suitable. Because if I don't find it suitable, I'll definitely let you know. I would like to hear your top 5 point guards in the NBA today.
Okay. Well, no,
Today.
today, this answer depends largely on whether or not you consider James Harden a point guard. James Harden played the point guard position for an entire year, and he plays the point guard position whenever Chris Paul is hurt. So if James Harden is James Harden a point guard, yes or no?
I don't consider him a point guard. I consider him a ball controller, but I don't think he's any more of a point.
He was played literally at the point guard position for a year, and the offense forms to that. I know there's a crossover between what he does and what Giannis and LeBron do. Like there's kind of a point forward element to him, but I also think if he's asked to, he could go to any team and be a legitimate point guard.
Well, I think that Giannis
and he's done that in the past.
I think Giannis and LeBron could too, but I do think that here's what I think. Here's why I'm willing to say yes, I'll give him that love as a point guard, because if you look at the starting 5 that goes on the floor with him, there is no other player on the floor, except for when Chris Paul is playing, that you can say is the point guard.
Right.
So last year I would say
a lot.
last year I would say that that's who he was. This year it's a little bit blurred with Chris Paul coming back from injury, but okay. Well, I mean, I'll allow it.
All right. So let me just double check something. Okay. So my list is right now currently based on the idea of what the point guard is supposed to do, which is run the offense and make their teammates better. And in that list, I have number 1 is Steph Curry. Number 2 is James Harden. Number 3 is Russell Westbrook. Number 4 is Kyrie Irving. And number 5 is Damian Lillard. And that's my top 5.
So wait a minute. Can you repeat your criteria again?
They run the offense and they make their teammates better.
They run the offense and they make their teammates better.
Yeah, and there's different ways to do that. Now, so for instance, Kyrie Irving is the one on this list that in that element I think could be considered a little shaky, because Boston seems to be better without him. But however, that's not necessarily true. There's a lot of numbers that say that's not true. And I think most importantly, and if people watch this show, if you watch them hang out our other show, you guys know I actually have been very critical of Kyrie Irving. But I also say young point guards, yada, 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 and because of his injuries, he has less years than a guy his age normally does. They develop, and Kyrie Irving has become a better playmaker this year. I do think eventually Boston is better with him. And I don't mean that like down the road. I mean like during the course of the game, there's times where Boston might get stagnant when he's not out there and he's able to get buckets. And at the end of the game, most importantly, they're a better team with Kyrie Irving on the floor, because without Kyrie Irving on the floor, they can struggle against better teams in the last few minutes to get points and stuff like that. But with Kyrie Irving on the floor, they always have a chance to beat literally any team in the league. And that's an important way to make your team better. I don't think Kyrie is as good at making his team better as the other guys before him on that list, as Steph, James, and Russell. I think for 48 minutes, Oklahoma City, Houston, and Golden State are better for having those guys on the floor. For Kyrie, I think it's inconsistent from game to game and during the game, but very consistently at the end of the game, they're a better team with him on the floor. And they just have to continue to grow and figure out in their situation. I think their situation is bigger than Kyrie Irving. And it is worth noting that last year when Kyrie Irving was healthy, they won 18 games in a row. So, so that's my list. And it is partially based on the fact that with the exception of Steph Curry, talent-wise, those teams are all in somewhat similar situations, right? Now, Houston hasn't been healthy, so their record could get a bit of forgiveness, but they all have basically one other all-star talent level player and a bunch of really good role players. And, according to that criteria, I could have put Russell number 2, but Russell's having such a bad shooting year that I wouldn't do that, even though he's having such a good defensive year that you could make that argument too. And I think that's the problem with Kyrie, is that Kyrie can be such a bad defensive player at times that it's better to have Terry Rozier on the floor. And he has to work on that and clean that up. But that doesn't outbalance the fact that Kyrie is one of the best one-on-one scorers in the league and arguably the best clutch scorer overall, regular season and playoffs, right? Like Steph is great in regular season, but in the playoffs, we still haven't really seen him be at his best in the biggest moments. But Kyrie is just an absolute straight killer. So that's my list.
Okay.
Well, I'm sad to leave Kemba Walker off the list, but his team don't never do nothing.
Well, see, that's just, I don't know how fair that is, but let's just go about this. First of all, I find fault. I find inconsistency and I find fault in your criteria and the matching of your list. And I did hear your explanation and how you kind of tried to link that up. But I think that the glue that you are using to sync those two concepts together is very faulty. It is far from Gorilla Glue, because you said that they need to make their teams better, but you also gave examples of how Kyrie fails to do that in certain situations, but then in other situations it appears that he does, which to me creates a sense of inconsistency. So that is the reason.
I said he's inconsistent.
Can I get a 20-second time?
I'm just saying. I said that. That's why he's not at the top of the list, but he doesn't be on the list.
He's not on my list. Okay.
All right. Okay.
He's not on my list. So
I think that's fair too.
You doggone right it is. I'm looking at my list right now, and it is his name is fairly omitted. No, he's not fairly, it's completely omitted. Now, we agree with number 1. Steph Curry, I do have him number 1, which is different for me this particular year because I've had the gentleman that I have dropped down to number 4 on my list as number 1.
Is that Chris Paul?
Can I do my list?
If Derrick Rose ain't on this list, I don't even know.
Did I attempt to leapfrog any portion of your list?
I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
I did not do it. Okay, I didn't. I let you do your thing. I'm surprised you didn't put Emmanuel Mudiay and Frank Ntilikina on here. But anyway, number 2, based off your criteria, which you've already started to break the rules at the very beginning of the show, James Harden. I have James Harden number 2. All right. Number 3, I have Russell Westbrook. For some of the things that you mentioned, yes, he is shooting the ball horrible. He can't shoot a skittle in the ocean right now. He can't. But defensively, he is playing fantastic. He is creating for his team, and we cannot forget the fact that he is the best rebounding point guard in the NBA, maybe ever, right? Mm-hmm. This is what he is doing, and he's still getting to the basket, still getting to the free throw line, even though he's not making free throws the way he usually does, but he's still
picking that up.
He's still finding ways to put pressure on the defense in every way, shape, or form, and he's also putting pressure on his assignment on a nightly basis.
He's the best post-up guard in the group. Kyrie's a good post-up guard too.
Yes.
But Russell is a mismatch in the post.
Yes, for most point guards, right? So number 4, I do have Chris Paul. I know he's been hurt.
Yeah.
And I know that he's had to adjust himself a bit to the way, because James Harden wants this 30 every night because he's really digging the fact that his name keeps coming up in these different conversations. So he's letting James Harden do his thing. And I think it's good for Chris Paul because Chris Paul's biggest issue is durability. And the less weight he has to carry in the regular season, the more apt potentially he is to be available in the postseason, which is when they really, really need him. So, but I cannot ignore the fact that for his entire career, pretty much, he's made guys better overall. Like, you get a rim running big with him and they're going to be better. You get a dependable wing shooter, they're going to get more shots than they get pretty much with just about everybody else they can play with, right? So Harden is really good running screen and roll, running pick and roll as well, and he's good at finding wing shooters, which is the reason why he's averaging almost 8 assists a game or whatever. So but It is what it is. I have Chris Paul there. And number 5, I have Damian Lillard.
Okay.
I like Lillard a little more than Kyrie, even though neither of them are great defenders. I think Lillard has attempted to step up in that area. I just, as a physical presence, and as a, just like, I think they're both great clutch players. I don't think Lillard gets enough credit for his ability to knock down clutch shots. He's also proven that he can do it as well too. So I just like Lillard a little bit. I don't know why I can't say Lillard today, but I like him a little bit better over Kyrie. It's very close between those two.
It is very close. I used to have Lillard above Kyrie, but Kyrie's efficiency is so high this year, and he's improved as a playmaker. That was always my number one criticism of Kyrie, is I just can't buy a top flight point guard passing the way he was passing, which was just not enough, especially the fact that his game is going to the basket. The difference with Lillard is Lillard's game is largely pulling away from the basket. So he's going to not get as many assists. If Lillard went to the basket as much as Kyrie Irving, he would average more assists. You know what I mean? And Lillard also seems to be a little bit better at sharing the scoring duties with a CJ McCollum type player, which is what Kyrie Irving is struggling with Jason Tatum. But the thing is, despite those troubles, and despite what the word is around Boston, they still have a good record. Like, they're not a failing team. They're doing fine. You know,
they still have a good record. I don't think they have the record that people expected them to have, but they still do have a good record. So
I think people form those expectations without a realistic look at the changes made in the Eastern Conference. Every team above them is better than every team around them is better. In fact, every team in the conference is better than they were last year. Brooklyn's better, Detroit's better, Charlotte's better, Philadelphia is better, Milwaukee's better, Indiana until Oladipo's injury was better. And you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I mentioned Milwaukee or Toronto got Kawhi Leonard. Like, the whole conference, this is the power conference in a lot of people's eyes now. It literally switched powers, despite the fact that LeBron James left. LeBron James left and every team got better. It's very feasible to believe that the Cavs would definitely have not made it to the finals, or, you know what I mean, in this Eastern Conference. So you can't judge Boston. They're looking at Boston and they went in their head and they imagined a bunch of things. And I think that's my biggest criticism of Boston right now, is that they're over panicking when they should be saying, hey, we have a plan. We're going to get it together. Gordon Hayward's getting healthy. He's looking better and better. I don't know what people expected, 12 months after his leg popped off and fell into the stands. Like, what you thought this guy was going to turn into? He was going to struggle.
Yeah, right? And especially coming into a team where, your absence it basically created opportunities for, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum to step up and do big things, essentially. Right. And now they have earned a certain amount of playing time. So now you kind of have to get in where you fit in. And he's starting to come together with it, but he accepted coming off the bench for a while. So he's definitely he's starting to put it together. Yeah. But I do think ultimately he probably ends up being the odd man out.
I'm not 100% sure about that, because when he's healthy, he's a guy who plays both sides of the floor, runs the offense really well, and shoots better than most people on that team, and can go to the basket. And his athleticism is coming back. Like, you can see it. He's a guy who's a very efficient scorer who works well in that system. I think people are very harshly judging Gordon Hayward because of the performance of the younger guys and how bad it looks when a guy's getting healthy.
Yeah, I don't think it's even about that. I think it's more about the money. His contract is ginormous, and if they can find somebody that will take him and take that deal, I think that just it makes more sense to ride with Jason Tatum and with Jaylen Brown. It just makes more sense from a financial standpoint. Not even talking about what he will or won't be able to grow into, but I think it just makes a little bit more sense to do that. But we'll see, because he makes a ton, and and I think definitely he would have probably been included in a deal to get Anthony Davis if they could have done it, at that point. So just kind of make things work from a money standpoint. But we'll see. We'll find out moving forward how that goes. Now,